So I'd like to talk about one of the key features of the CL-12, and that is the SEL button or select button. When you select a channel, you're making that input available for adjustment, and there's many parameters that you can adjust once that select for that channel is selected. So let's take a look at a few of those things. I've activated the channel. I can deselect it just by pressing again, but let's activate it. Now first, let's move over to the channel select tools. Here, I can toggle whether the channel is on and off. So now I can turn it on. Notice the on LED comes on. I can turn that off, turn it on. I can then choose to arm that channel, on, off. I can then activate the high pass filter for that channel. When I turn on the high pass filter, it brings up the EQ screen. More on that later. I can also toggle the phase reverse of that channel by pressing the phase button. I can even name the channel. Pressing the name button brings up a track name pop-up window, which allows me to select various tracks that I've already pre-prepared or edit existing track names or adding new entries. Very fast way for adding track names. Now, with an input channel selected, I can also adjust EQ for that input. Just rotate any of the EQ pots to make an adjustment when that input is selected. Now with an input selected, I can also route that input to any of the L, R, X1 and X2 buses. Notice the LEDs just above the select button. This tells you how the input is routed to those buses. So simply make sure the channel is selected and then press the L pot to toggle whether that input is routed or not to that bus. Notice that as I press it, it toggles the left LED indicator on and off. Same with the right LED. Same with the X1 routing. Now notice here when I press it there, it's glowing green, and that indicates that I've routed the input to X1 pre-fade. Now it's off. Now it's yellow, which indicates it's routing to the X1 bus post-fade. And the same goes for X2. So you can see how useful these SEL buttons are. But one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that you can adjust multiple inputs at the same time by setting up a group of selects. To do that, there are multiple ways of doing that. You can hold a select and add others. To deselect that group, just press any select in that group. I can press buttons simultaneously. That will activate a group of selects. Again, press any select to deactivate. With a group added, I can just add more to that group by holding one down and adding more selects. So once you have your group selected, you can apply your channel select tools and your routing and various parameters, as you can see here. Certain parameters cannot be group adjusted, such as name and EQ. Let's take a look at how to PFL an input. It's pretty easy. You just press an input's PFL button. Now I'm listening to that channel pre-fade or post-fade in my headphones, depending on whether I've got my input to isotrack routing set up as pre-fade or post-fade in the inputs menu. To deselect that input, PFL, just press the PFL button again, or select another channel's PFL. You can only have one input's PFL active at a time. Now when you select a PFL, notice it brings up the input settings window for that input. If I press and hold the PFL button, it doesn't bring up the window. Instead, it just PFLs that input in my headphones. And when I release, PFL is cancelled. So it's a momentary form of operation. Now there's a really cool function called SEL follows PFL, which I can turn on in the CL-12 menu. So if I enable that. And what this does is when I activate a PFL, it also activates the SEL button for that input. And this provides a really quick one-touch method of operation for controlling multiple input parameters. Firstly, I'm PFLing the input in my headphones. Secondly, I've brought up the input settings window and all its adjustments. And also, because the SEL is illuminated, I've got access to my channel select tools, my EQ controls, and my output routing. Very fast way to gain access to multiple input settings.